Hey guys, so I've got another another video here that was suggested by a viewer to give some tips on sniping and airsoft, and I'm going to try and do as much as I can up here in the fort as I can and fairly quickly, because there's a robin who's made a nest under our deck and she's getting kind of mad that I'm up here. So I'm going to do as much as I can up here. Oh, just a second. Sorry about that, my zoom button got stuck. But yeah, I'm gonna show you some basic stuff, and then I'll go outside and show you some stuff like camouflage, how to stay hidden. One thing you'll want is extra clips. One thing that sucks most out on the field is when you're out of ammo and you actually have to resort to your speed loader, and unless you have someone to cover you, that's kind of a desperate situation. For my gun I have 4 clips, but that's only because I had another model gun that was almost exactly the same, different brand, but the clips fit in the same gun. So I have 4, but you can always go online and find other clips, extras to buy. And they're usually not too expensive, because you're just buying the clips, you're not buying another gun. Another thing is a good scope. The one I have on here is just for a BB gun. And you don't want one that'll zoom like super far, because then it's just inaccurate, because the BB won't go as far unless you're using heavier BBs, which then they'll stay pretty straight. But you don't want one like a real gun scope, because that's going to see way further than the BB's actually going to go, or it'll start to drop off by the end. Another thing, when you're using a scope, if it's a sunny day, I guess you can't really tell because my camera's not as good a quality, but if it's an overcast day, lots of clouds, you won't have to worry about that. But if it's really sunny, and maybe it's like towards the end of the day, like it's starting to set, then you get problems with glare, and that's not so cool when you're trying to dial in on an enemy and there's a bunch of glare on your scope. So I haven't messed around with it, but there might be a way to position yourself away from the sun so that doesn't happen, but just be aware of that. Also, if you're going to play the role of a sniper, you're going to want a decent gun. About 400 FPS is usually pretty good. Anything lower than that and you're not going to be able to snipe very well. Also show you some things you might want. First thing is a sidearm. Mine's not super great. For a spring pistol, it's the best there was. It's about 300 FPS and it's spring, so but if you have the money, also more clips for if you get a sidearm too, because you don't want to run out in that if you run out in your main gun. But I would suggest that if you have a little bit of extra money to get a CO2 pistol, I would recommend it. But it does cost a bit more, but the performance goes up and your accuracy and range also goes up, so it's a little bit better than a spring pistol. If you get a sidearm like that, you'll also want a holster, because well, I guess you could use your pockets, but there's the chance that it might fall out of your pocket, and then when you need it, you're left without a sidearm, and then you have to go pick it up later. And also, on the one I got, it's got a little pouch for a speed loader or another clip if the clip is small enough. My clips won't fit in there, but I'm sure there's some pistols that it would. Another thing, take it for granted, but you might want a bipod, because if you're lying down, you're going to be there a while, and I'm sure your arms will get tired holding the rifle up, and unless you have something like a log that you're sitting behind to position it on, the bipod helps out a lot. And mine came with the gun, but I'm sure if your gun doesn't come with it, you could buy one also pretty cheap. They're not that easy, or they're not that hard to find. So, as far as eye protection goes when you're sniping, you want something that covers your whole face. I left my face wrap at home, but you could use that in addition to safety glasses, or you could do something like this, like a ski mask or a baklava. But I like to use this mesh mask, because instead of a full face mask that's meant for like paintball and stuff, or also airsoft, but those, when you're trying to look through a scope, it doesn't work that well because this is really rigid and it won't bend. But with these masks, they bend a lot and they won't break, or at least for a while, unless you're doing that a lot. But what I like about that is since it can squeeze in a little bit, when you're leaning your cheek against the rifle over here, it'll bend in so you can actually look down the scope even with the mesh mask. And I think that's about it for accessories. If I missed something or you want to know, just leave a comment or something, send me a message if you want to know more. That is if I know it. I'm sorry, in the last part, if there was helicopter noise, there seems to be either a rescue or news helicopter that's circling around out there. It's kind of noisy. But yeah, that's about it for the accessories, and I guess I'll move on to attire. So right now I'm wearing my favorite thing to airsoft in, and that's just woodland camo. I think these are standard GI issue. I got them at Big 5 sporting goods store. You want something, when you're sniping, you're going to be in one spot for a while, so you want something that's comfortable, and you don't want something that's gonna, like, these are pretty baggy, which is nice, and they don't get too hot. As far as shoes, whatever, you'll be probably running around in the mud, or at least I do, especially, so you just want junk shoes, preferably ones that don't slip off as easily as these skate shoes. For a coat, you're going to want something other than my my bright orange t-shirt. That would give it away. I'm just wearing this because I just came up here to make the video. But you're going to want something more like, they make camo vests and they make camo jackets. I would invest in one of those, or if you don't have that, even just a long brown sweatshirt, or that's what I normally do. But something to that effect. And I guess the next part I'll go outside and show you just cover and stuff.